We had, the last second field goal. Maybe could have run another play, get a little bit closer. That field goal was a yard short. Israel Gutierrez, we have to start with you.
All right.
Is this Seahawks loss all on Pete Carroll?
I do feel a little like Frank Isola, by the way, so it makes me feel even a little
Good
cooler.
for you.
But there are several elements here that are Pete Carroll's fault. The ones you just mentioned, of course. There's so much more that's an issue with the Seahawks right now, including their defense being as hurt as it is. Cam Chancellor not there. Richard Sherman not there. It's probably somewhat Pete Carroll's fault that this is true also, but it remains problematic that Russell Wilson's responsible for 82% of that team's offense, which would be the most by any single player in the Super Bowl era. But I do think that because you have those other issues, because you're not the same old Seattle Seahawks, those little decisions that Pete Carroll has to make are going to be the difference between wins and losses. And when you're this close in a playoff chase,
there weren't really little decisions. I mean, that's a fake field goal at the end of the half. Well, that's kind of a big decision. I think I heard having said that in there, so I'm going to lose a point. And also, I think you lost the point in the middle because you said problematic, which is a narrative we don't want to hear ever again on this show. Sarah Spade, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Russell Wilson turned over the ball the first 3 times. Izzy got me! They committed 9 penalties for 106 yards. They couldn't get any pressure on Matty Ice. So there was a number of issues there. I think we like to pile on coaches after the fact when they make a bold move like this, but we also criticize them when they don't go for it on 4th and 1. And the numbers tell you that you're supposed to. So maybe you can argue that even if he hadn't gotten the touchdown, there wasn't enough time for him to run out of bounds and then kick a field goal, which is what Pete Carroll said after the game. But I don't like the idea of second guessing after the fact, particularly when it's at the end of the half and they weren't down by much. Go for it.
Yates.
Yeah, I think the worst decision in this circumstance was the one with the challenge. Didn't have a huge problem with the fake field goal, but overall, again, Shaquille Griffin was out of this game as well with the concussion, so they were down further in that case. But Pete Carroll knows this team isn't great. He knows he's got to take some chances. I don't have a huge problem with this. They're still undefeated in the division. They're kind of in the race. I don't think that it was necessarily the best way to go, but overall, I'm not angry walking out of this if I'm a Seahawks fan.
Frank Isola.
I'm going to go Larry Brown on everybody. Score, clock, situation. There's 7 seconds left in the half. Pete Carroll's even thinking, well, maybe if he can't score, run out of bounds. There's 7 seconds left. Kick the field goal. Cut the game to 4. I understand points are at a premium. Matt Ryan always scores a lot against the Seattle defense, especially this one without Richard Sherman, Cam Chancellor. But come on, you have to kick the field goal. The chances of scoring on that play, it might look good in practice. It's a little bit different in a game.
Israel, you want to address
Frank,
that?
though, what are you saying if it's successful? Are you saying that there's Pete Carroll doing what he can do to make this team better despite all these injuries? I mean, all it takes, they clearly practiced this play. They clearly thought it would work. It just didn't.
Okay.
Who are they practicing it against?
Those plays work in practice. We know that. I mean, not so much in games. Did anybody else notice when Frank gave us his Larry Brown score clock situation? He delivered it with such aplomb, thinking we were all just going to applaud him when he said it. And we were all like, what's he talking about? I've never heard that one before.
Yeah, whatever, yeah.
Let's talk about the Falcons side of this. Julio Jones says they got their swagger back. Do they? Sarah Spain?
Right now they look good, right? You get 2 wins, although, we're ragging on Pete Carroll and the Seahawks for losing this game more than we are on the Falcons for winning it. So I don't know how confident that makes us in what Atlanta did. Well, they've had some ugly losses. They lost to the Bills. They lost to the Dolphins. They lost to the Cardinals. They almost and should have lost to the Bears. This is a team that is 6-4, which is exactly where they were last year before they peeled off a bunch of wins and went to the Super Bowl and looked incredibly strong. You can look at that and say they're on their way, or you could say this team doesn't give you as much confidence as last year's, and that's where I'm at.
Frank Isola, you're shaking your head.
Every year there's a team that loses the Super Bowl, but this was different. And I think it took them a long time to recover from that. That has something to do with it. And look at the teams that they're playing. They play Seattle, defense all banged up. They beat the Cowboys without Ezekiel Elliott. Now they get Tampa without Jameis Winston. So they're starting to come together at a good time. They're playing very vulnerable teams. And by the way, 5-1 in the NFC. That'll be big come wild card time.
See why.
Yeah, and as a result of that, they got the tiebreaker over the next 2 teams. I'm not going to take away anything from the Falcons because they won a game. People always want to say, oh, you haven't beat anybody that's any good. If you're a good team, guess what else you do? You beat bad teams, and they beat a pretty good team here. So I'm fine with it. I didn't say the swagger is all the way back, but a W is better than an L in this situation by a mile.
Quick scoring note. I do believe that Frank Isola got a point for saying that every year somebody loses in the Super Bowl, so we're going to have to get that.
You know what?
That's
you know
true,
what
man.
actually
That's
happened?
true.
I rolled up my sleeve while that was happening, and I bumped into it. So I'm glad you
That's what I thought.
pointed out. That's getting a mute right here. So there it is, Frank Isola.
And I will say this about the Falcons.
That's a score clock situation. We're going to move on. Celtics, 16 straight in a row consecutively. Kyrie at 47. Look at Kyrie Irving's numbers in the clutch this season from Micah Adams. Another comeback. 8 of the 16 wins have been comebacks. Another double-digit comeback. 5 of the 8 comebacks have been by double digits. When you hear that, Sarah Spain, do you think, whoa, they're good at closing out games? Or do you hear, aberration? They've been down a lot.
I hear, wow, the Celtics haven't played a complete game yet, and they've won 16 in a row. Wow, right? This is a team that hasn't been able to put it together early on in games, hasn't really found their flow. Third youngest team in the NBA, a bunch of new guys, and they are putting it together when it counts, enough to string together 16 wins. Yeah, it's probably not something you're going to keep up. You're not going to break the NBA record for wins this season. It's going to regress back down. But I'm looking at this, and instead of thinking stop needing to get a comeback, I'm thinking, whoa, where's this team going to go when they finally get a full game together?
Same question to you, Clinton.
Well, what I think is that if Kyrie Irving has to be the MVP of the NBA in order for the Celtics to be this good, then this is not remotely sustainable. However, the defense they're playing makes you look like they're a very sexy team. I just don't feel that Boston is a team right now that knows what they've got in the future going forward. However, what are you going to say about a 16-game winning streak? You can't say you expected that walking into this season. It looks good.
Surely after Gordon Hayward's injury, but I need to challenge you on the idea that Kyrie Irving can't be MVP of this.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that I don't think you would have expected him to have to be that good in order for this team to be successful. Right now, they need some other pieces. They look like a team that, is missing a Gordon Hayward.
Frank Isola.
I think Kyrie Irving is saying a lot of people, including this person right here, questioned him leaving Cleveland when he did. Then they're 0-2 to start the season. And look what he's done. He's accepted this challenge. He's made these players a lot better. I give Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum a lot of credit, and they defend. That's what they do. And you could say, all right, it's Dallas. Dallas beat Milwaukee the other night at home. So Dallas at home could still be a pretty tough team. And to come back like that with a young team, Brad Stevens has done a remarkable job bringing together a new team and having them defend like this. And then how about Marcus Smart? He never seems to shoot well. He was 3 for 15, and he was a plus 15.
Plus 15.
It defies logic.
Yeah, that is the most incredible thing of this season. After the Gordon Hayward injury and everything that Kyrie is doing in the clutch is that Smart's plus or minus is through the roof in the pluses, and his field goal percentage is falling off a cliff. Gutierrez, what are you seeing with Boston?
I am sold. I am sold on Kyrie Irving as a leading man. I'm sold on that Kyrie Irving, Al Horford pick and roll. I'm sold on Kyrie Irving late in games being arguably the best, most reliable player in the game for a couple of reasons. One, he can get anywhere he wants to on the floor with that handle. Okay, and obviously when you've got a pick and roll partner like Al Horford who can play it inside and out, that makes it so dangerous too. But every shot that he gets off, because he's such a great finisher, is a good shot. And so, man, he could have games like this and score 47 points and shoot better than 70% as primarily a jump shooter and, a guy that finishes around the rim around 7-footers. That's nuts.
Clinton Yates.
Let's not forget, though, he's wearing a mask for a facial injury, which means he at any point could be out of a game or 4 in a row, just like that. It's tough.
Yeah, he's leading the league in clutch. We showed you those stats before. While LeBron is leading the league in minutes played, although they gave him a little bit of break in a win last night. I guess my question, Frank, is Boston getting more from Kyrie, or is Cleveland getting less because they lost Kyrie?
Well, for starters, Izzy sounds a lot smarter wearing my jacket. I think it's really still Cleveland. LeBron has to do so much, and to talk about his minutes, he did exactly what Steph Curry has done for the last 2 years. You play so well, you can sit in the fourth quarter. So Tyronn Lue is right to talk about, we need him to play a lot of minutes in order to win. He earned his rest last night, and they still miss Kyrie big time.
Israel?
No, I mean, I think when you've got still this version of LeBron James, Cleveland fans can comfortably say already this year, yep, this is not the year that LeBron's going to fall off. So you're going to give him the ball as much as possible. Kyrie in Cleveland, while he has been doing this or had done this for the 3 previous years and was capable of it, was not responsible for that as often as he will be and continues to be in Boston. So I think he means more to the Celtics than the loss does to the Cavs.
Sarah, Boston being 5.5 up before Thanksgiving on the Cavaliers, is that more about gaining Kyrie or more about Cleveland losing Kyrie?
It's more about gaining Kyrie. Listen, you can ask almost anybody, and they'll argue as long as LeBron is on that Cavs team, they're not that concerned with who's around him. And as long as that's still an argument that can be made, this is much more about how it changes the look of the Celtics team, particularly because, like I said, third youngest team in the league that has a good chance to have a very big window in front of them to take over the East. And if LeBron and his teammates can't get it together, this is going to be a much more exciting and interesting battle, even without Gordon Hayward, than we thought it might have been when he left.
Clinton Yates after the horn.
Boston was the #1 seed last year, no big deal. And hello, Isaiah Thomas is not yet playing. Once that guy comes back, then we can gauge what the Cavs are really about.
Going to be like.
That's Gordon Hayward on one end and Isaiah Thomas on the other.
I don't know that that's fair to say. Gordon Hayward was a guy who was in a different conference doing a different thing. We saw what IT can do in that Eastern Conference.
It's in the same conference doing it.
Get a 1 seed.
Later on SportsCenter, the process of Joel Embiid taking his trash talk and troll game to the next level. Plus, he gives us a sneak peek as to how he plans to get in LeBron's head next Monday night. SportsCenter at 6. Trusted.
Buy or sell.
Thanks, Michael. I know you love Joel Embiid. Everybody loves Joel Embiid. Last night, he's getting rave reviews for the block, the stare, baiting a technical foul. Donovan Mitchell's giving up 9 inches, 35 pounds. That's an Embiid flop. I think we can all agree on that. Israel, buy or sell it?
No, I'm going to sell it. I'm impressed by the block. I'm impressed by his play, and I'm impressed with his personality. So, a flop and a mild taunt is not the most creative thing in the world. Anybody could do that. I'll sell it.
Sarah Spain?
I'm buying it. It's like a karaoke performance of Meatloaf's I Would Do Anything for Love. It could be terrible. It could be magical. It's all about the delivery, and he is delivering hard on all of his charm, and that's exactly what the Sixers need after all those process years.
Clinton Yates?
Yeah, the most important part here is not just that he gets it in his opponent's head, but he is now manipulating the referees, which is a critical element to being somebody that is there to win psychological battles. It was a great performance, stuck the landing.
I'll buy that he got the refs to call the tech. But Frank Isola, I mean, he's got 9 inches and 50 pounds on him, and he's going down for that?
This is straight out of Cameroon, where young Joel Embiid learned how to play soccer at a young age. And this is what you do. And when you do it in soccer, your opponents look at you, you know what? That's cheating, trying to get someone a yellow card, or in this instance, a technical. Love Joel Embiid. I don't like this.
We'll move on. Buy or sell 2, Boogie versus Russ. This was an ejection for DeMarcus Cousins. He's saying, no, that's a flop. Who you buying, Sarah?
I was buying him until I saw this replay right there where he's got the face on like, oh, don't bring this in here. That was an intentional elbow, and whether or not you think Westbrook oversold it, I don't care. I'm not going to side with the guy throwing elbows at people's faces.
Clinton Yates?
I'm selling Cousins because he botched his own attempt to make his own case. If you do something wrong, don't start waving people away and calling attention to your error, which is exactly what he did. He should have just dropped the ball and moved on, and everybody would have believed him.
Frank Isola?
The referees got the call right. Luckily for the Pelicans, they outscored the Thunder by 11 points after Cousins left the game. And by the way, if we're going to kill Lonzo Ball for not jumping in on that silly little thing, what about my guy Carmelo? He didn't do anything with DeMarcus Cousins. He just elbowed his famous teammate. So I don't know about that.
Gutierrez?
Now, I know the rule and I know the intent, keep the head and neck safe. But just if you look at this play, it seemed like he was sort of swinging down and it slid up, because Russell Russell's clearly sweaty and it hit him in the neck. I understand the ejection, I understand the rule, but in terms of intent, I do not think DeMarcus Cousins meant to elbow Russell Wilson in the head. No way.
I'm just surprised you had the flexibility in your elbow there, wearing the leather. I mean, are we sure that's real leather? I guess we have to do an around the horn investigation into that.
Leather.
Buy or sell 3, the Denver Post, Mark Kisla. Broncos are garbage. Why doesn't the stink stick to John Elway? He made this mess. Buy or sell, Clinton?
Did I miss the memo? I'm selling this. Did I miss the memo where Broncos fans had some sort of divine right to Super Bowl contenders every single year? Last time I checked, Peyton Manning wasn't having a Super Bowl. And before that, John Elway is an NFL legend. All right, look, you're complaining about way too much. They're just a bad team right now, having a couple down years. It could be much worse. Trust me, I live in the District of Columbia.
Frank Isola?
We don't know anything about bad football in New York. Mr. Yates, you happen to be right about that you're allowed to have a bad season. But John Elway is not immune to criticism. And I think when you come out and call your team soft, I don't like that. I think you put your head coach in a bad spot. That's where I give Elway some criticism.
Israel.
Yeah, no, look, I do think that Elway should be criticized for not being able to find a quarterback or develop a quarterback yet. Because, he's clearly a quarterback and was a really good one, and you would think that that would be one of his strengths. But, I mean, come on, the guy won you a Super Bowl. He did manage to get Peyton Manning there, whether it be based on reputation or a great call. So, yeah, I think you got to give him some credit and let this ride through. But they do need to really focus on getting a quarterback and stop worrying about offensive coordinators.
Yeah, 12-4 2 years ago in a Super Bowl win. Between 2012 and 2015, they won 12 games every single year. I get it. You're used to this being a great team, and I get that it's frustrating to watch a legendary quarterback not seem to be able to identify other quarterbacks. But if that's what we're judging every team on, there are very few teams in the NFL that have managed to find a good quarterback. Now, let's be clear. Colin Kaepernick is still out there, and he went back to Brock Osweiler. So I know we're done talking about how Colin Kaepernick is out there because it's so clear by now how many teams have passed on him. But this is a perfect example of one that still had some good skill players, still had a good defense, and they were willing to go back to Brock you like a hurricane instead of Kaepernick, and that's how he finds himself.
What is happening here? Where was that horn? Spain just went on for a minute and a half.
Let me keep talking.
Showdown 1 is the college basketball news of the day. Missouri freshman Michael Porter Jr. will undergo back surgery, likely to miss the whole season. He played 2 minutes in the opener, that's it. It was thought he could be the overall #1 pick in the draft. So my question to you, Sarah Spain, Clinton Yates, if you're a team drafting 1 or 2 or 3 or anywhere in the lottery, how much pause do you think a back injury and lost season gives you?
Yeah, a back injury more so than other injuries for sure. That's problematic. You have to look at how it's going to affect his entire kinetic chain. I will say that he's a guy that could be the only great college player ever to graduate with a perfect free throw percentage. 2 for 2.
I mean, look, let's remember how many college games Kyrie Irving played. It was, 11? Turned out he's a pretty good player. Talked about him all show. Look, I think that this is as good a case as any to show why these guys shouldn't be forced to go to college. If this ends up messing up his draft status for a talent like that, that's not fair. Kid should be able to play. Kid should be able to make money.
I don't think he got hurt because he went to college. He got hurt because he got hurt playing the game he would have been playing or training for wherever. Either way, a problematic narrative from the elite Sarah Spain in her answer. This is how we get rid of these words on the show. Don't use them. Point to Yates. We'll move on. Chip Kelly to Florida, rumor, versus the Chip Kelly to UCLA, rumor, versus the Chip Kelly to every opening ever, rumor. Clinton, go.
Sure, look. Here's the dirty little secret about Florida and the reason why he should be going to UCLA. Florida's not a good job. Sorry, there's too much pressure in the SEC for that situation. Sure, you're not in the same division as Nick Saban, but overall, you're still in the same conference. I don't know why anybody would want to go there versus being able to hang out on the beach at a basketball school.
First of all, pressure creates diamonds. It's a good job because if you do it well, you become a champion, and you can hang out on the beach in Florida, too. That being said, I think UCLA is the right choice for him because he already knows the Pac-12, and he can recruit in that state and surrounding areas and won't have to compete with SEC guys that have established reputations there. Either way, though, good job. To say Florida's not a good job.
Pressure creates diamonds. I thought pressure created hoodies from XYZ Everywhere. If you go on XYZ Everywhere right now, you'll see a photo of Clinton wearing that hoodie on national TV. That's pretty impressive.
Paid.
Spain, you're getting the point, but you're still down. Going to showdown 3. The Clippers lost 9 in a row since Frank Isola said he believed in them. Since Clinton Yates dressed up as Patrick Beverly for Halloween. Speaking of Patrick Beverly, he's not thrilled with his streak. Yeah, there's a bit of expletive in there. Sarah, how to fix the Clippers?
Well, I'll say this is a great start because I like my players to be angry when they're losing. I don't like my Blake Griffins to be taking stupid fouls at the end of games and looking like they're giving in a lackadaisical effort. I like Patrick Beverly's anger, so I think that's a start. Get angry. Try harder.
I don't like Patrick Beverly's anger. I love Patrick Beverly's anger. And as the president of the Patrick Beverly fan club, I am obviously going to condone the way he analyzes his team. But he's right. They're missing a lot of stuff from that squad, and meanness is a big part of it. But that's what he's there for.
I don't think there was another person on the planet who dressed up as Patrick Beverly for Halloween. Congrats on that again. And congrats on this FaceTime.
The New England Patriots played in Mexico City, and upon their return, head coach Bill Belichick had a couple of things to say about what that experience was like. He said, number one, I'm glad there were no volcanoes that erupted. Number two, I'm glad there were no earthquakes. And then he made a reference to tectonic shifts that was, way out of line. Listen, any place in America, there are plenty of places that can be affected by natural disasters. To imply that there's some sort of mystical element to what's going on in Mexico that affects American teams more than other teams is really unfair. It's not an okay thing to say, Bill. You know that, and the rest of the world does too.